Hello, everybody. We're back with another review, this time for Fatal Frame 5 Maiden of Blackwater. Um, we just got done. We got what I think is basically the good endings for everybody. There's a lot of endings in this game. Um, but whenever we complete a game, I like to talk about it from a mechanical standpoint, from a story standpoint, and then an overall standpoint. That's also where I'll talk about whether I recommend it or don't recommend it. Um, but jumping right into it, mechanically, it's very much Fatal Frame game. You still have, your types of healing items, which are your herbal medicines, your sacred waters. You have your mirror stones, which are your extra lives. The camera works as you would think. They kept the combo thing that they've had for the past few iterations. The major differences with mechanics, there's basically three major mechanical differences. One, in this game, you can actually rotate the camera. So if this is your frame, instead of it just being bang, 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 you can actually rotate it around. It's because this game was a Wii U game, and they kept that in. It's pretty easy to do on controller. On controller, you just use your bumpers, your right and left bumper there, and it rotates the camera for you. And you could get more weak spots essentially in the camera to do more damage or to set them up for a powerful shot. They also added a thing where when you do damage to spirits, they get little orbs around them to allow you if you can get 5 basically circles all in a frame, you can do a shot that does more damage and knocks them back. Fatal frames are still in there, of course. So if you have someone attack you, you can wait for them to attack you, hit them with a fatal frame, and then you can combo from there. Now, the other two mechanics that are kind of tied together that they did add for this game, there is what is called a wetness meter. Yes, that is what it's called, which is basically how wet your character gets as you're playing. When it rains, when you walk through water, whatever, it raises that meter. Based on what the game tells us, I believe that meter makes it to where you're more likely to get attacked by spirits. It didn't seem like it was too many. It's not like every time we were turning around we were getting attacked by spirits, at least not on normal. And accompanying that is the taint debuff. Essentially, it's a thing that hits you when I think your wetness has to be full, but I'm not sure. Basically, there are certain ghosts that have special attacks that cause you to become tainted, which is a debuff that slowly takes your health over time. Now, the two things you could do, you can either defeat the ghost, that'll get rid of the taint, or you can use the Burning Embers, which is an item they added for this game to get rid of wetness and the taint, as it were. So that is the mechanics they kind of added to this one that weren't in any of the other ones. Again, I don't think it's super involved. Like we basically, other than the tutorial ember, I don't think we used a single ember, and we didn't really have that much problem dealing with things. There was a couple times where the tainted attacks did lower our health to 0, but thankfully we had mirror stones. Another major mechanical change that's not really like a game mechanic but a structure mechanic is this is structured in missions, which is a little bit different than the other ones, where instead of just being like the chapters that you go through one after another, you still do that, but you can go to any other like chapter to return to it for whatever reason. There's also a scoring system, so the more resources you leave they're called drops, but every chapter you leave, you can get up to, I got an S plus rank. I don't know if there's something above that. There might be like an SS rank or an SS plus rank or whatever. So certain games do that kind of ranking system. So more resources you have, the more ghost like photos and stuff you take, essentially, the higher your rank will be, and then you use those rank points to upgrade your camera in the next mission, and so on and so forth. Which is an interesting addition. I think that's an interesting way to do upgrades, is where you get more upgrades the better you do. So it allows you to spend more time. It rewards you for exploring, which is a thing that survival horror games usually do, but usually it's through resources. So it's like the more you explore, the more healing you'll find, the more ammo you'll find, stuff like that, which is still the case here. But on top of that, you also get scoring points, which allow you to upgrade your power and your loading and all the other camera aspects, your lenses as well. But and the last like mechanical thing is story structure. It's very much like Fatal Frame 3. I'm trying to think, did Fatal Frame 4 have 3 characters? I don't remember, but at least Fatal Frame 3. This game does have 3 characters. You have Yuri, who's this character behind us. You have Ren, who is a character that's connected to the person that has taken Yuri in, and then you have Miyu, who is connected to another character who Yuri and the person who helps Yuri is looking for. So they kind of tie like this little web of how all these people are connected. And that, so there's 3 characters again, which is fine. I don't mind the multiple characters. I know some people might find it a bit tedious, but I like the different perspectives on things. And also, different characters get different encounters. So it's like you might encounter a ghost that you have with Ren that you won't have with Yuri or Miyu or, you know, whatever. So all that being said, let's get into the story. I will preface this with, this story is very, very intense because it comes out and says what it's about, which does it a service for people that aren't maybe not as, they're not as easily able to kind of look through kind of the interpretation lens. This one more hands them the story. However, the story is about, and YouTube is going to hate this, unaliving oneself. We'll say that is what the story is largely about. Different perspectives, different ways, different people. It is wholly about that story, or that kind of thing, and the story tells about that thing from different perspectives and how people view it and all of that. It does have a deeper story. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't played it. I'd like to keep my review just relatively spoiler free. But it is very much a story about dealing with isolation, dealing with the idea of dying alone, and dealing with the idea of the embrace, if you will, of the thoughts of unaliving oneself. So it is a pretty intense topic, probably the most intense, I would say, of the series, just because this game flat out says in multiple notes what it's about, whereas the other ones give you a little bit more like leeway into interpretation. It's not as in your face about it, but for a topic as heavy as what this one's talking about, I think it is perfectly fine for them to be like, hey, this is exactly what we're talking about. These are the thoughts on it. This is the things that we need to be talking about in conjunction with all of this stuff. So I think it's perfectly fine. Again, I won't get too much in the story, but if that kind of stuff is upsetting for you, you might not be able to handle the story here, because it is a long game and there's a lot of discussion of it. A lot. 3 characters and all of them are talking about it. So keep that in mind from a story standpoint. But other than that, I think the story is really well done. I had some questions, and at the end, they were able to kind of answer those questions, connect the pieces, and stuff like that. There are multiple endings for each character, which is kind of cool. I won't say what endings that we got. If you want to see that, that'll be in the playthrough, which should be in a playlist, the Fatal Frame series playlist, as well as just on the channel here. So you should be able to find that if you want to see what endings we got. But there are multiple endings. We did go back and get both endings for this character. There are 2 endings for this character, mainly because I wasn't sure how to get the endings, so we kind of just threw things against the wall. The first time we got the bad ending, and I'm like, how? and then I figured out how it was when we got back into the fight, so I was able to get the good ending as well. So you'll actually see both of this character's endings in our playthrough if you were curious about that. The other characters I will leave for you to discover. So let's talk about overall. What do I think about Fatal Frame 5? Would I recommend it? That kind of stuff. Overall, I enjoyed it. I really did. We had one issue where in the last chapter, we did an hour and a half of exploring and then the game crashed and we lost all of that. I really wish there was some manual saves in the game to alleviate that kind of issue, but it only happened to us once. Unfortunately, it just happened to us when we did the most amount of work. So you won't have to worry about that. I have the video for all of that content, so you will see us doing all of that work. It's just it won't be on the file itself. So you'll still see the content. Don't worry about that. It's just the game won't recognize that we did any of it. So that was a little unfortunate. Still would have preferred some manual save systems or more consistent auto saves, but that is one of my gripes about it. I think the only other gripe I have is kind of story related in the fact that they very much repeat themselves through this game from a story standpoint. Every character is dealing with the stuff that we talked about in some way from some different lens, pun intended. But by the time you get to the end, you're like, okay, we get it. We understand what this is about. Let's get to the finale here. But outside of that, I really did enjoy this. And I want to be clear, when I went into this series, because this is my first time playing the Fatal Frame series, I had heard that people just did not like this game. For whatever reason, I had heard nobody be like, play Fatal Frame 5, it's good, here's why I like it. Nobody, not a single person I've ever interacted with has recommended this game. Now this is the PC version that we played, so it's the port, but it's got the it still has that like turning of like the Wii U thing that it had. Now I would guess probably on Wii U maybe it didn't run well, maybe the tablet controls were not the greatest. I can understand why people might have not liked the original version, but this version I don't really have an understanding for why people don't like it. If you're one of the people that just don't like this game for whatever reason, leave us a comment. I would love to hear from you about why you personally did not enjoy Fatal Frame 5. But I liked it, start to finish. Like I said, I think it's a little long. I think the story, kind of keeps doing the different strokes over and over again with the brush of like, okay, we know what this is about. The ghosts are interesting. There was a mechanic that I didn't mention. I'll mention here. There is a mechanic where you can touch ghosts and you can see their story that led up to their demise, essentially. And I think that is a really, really cool mechanic that none of the other games have really done. Usually when you defeat a ghost, it just shows you. But this actually has a direct connection with the character. So the character, not just the player, is seeing the story. And I think that's really, really cool. And it actually plays a part in how this character connects with the world, but also how this character connects with their endings. The idea that they get to see all these different like paths and stuff through their ghosts. So that is really, again, I'm not going to spoil anything with the ending, but that is a really cool, it's called a fatal glance. That's what the mechanic is called. And I thought that was really, really cool. I hope that if they do another game, I hope it has that mechanic in there because I love that mechanic. Because I was trying to chase down every ghost story because I'm like, oh, what happened with this guy? What happened with this lady? What happened with this person? It was just very cool. It made me want to continue not only getting the rewards of exploring, but also learning about the ghost, which is kind of the first for me in the Fatal Frame series. Because a lot of times, again, they just feed you the story anyways. But this one, I was actively searching for ghosts because I wanted to get their story. So very cool. I'll be completely honest. I do recommend this game. I had, like I said, we had one crash, which was unfortunate on PC. But other than that, I enjoyed the heck out of this game. They I had some issues going into kind of the finale. I was like, oh, are they gonna finish the story here? Or are we gonna get some sort of discussion here? And they did. They showed exactly why they had the characters and the positions that they had, and what that happened, and why we needed the three different perspectives. So it's hard for me to find really any complaints. It is a little bit of a bigger game, which might be something people don't like. It's a little bit more open. There's a lot more exploring, but again, it rewards that exploring through points to upgrade your camera, but also through story when you can, contact the ghosts and stuff like that. Very cool. But yeah, it gets a recommend from me. Like I said, my only caveat is if the story beat of dealing with people unaliving themselves is something that you don't think you can handle, then definitely skip this game, because that is the big keystone to this entire story. So that would be my one caveat. But I enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm glad we played this series. Keep an eye on the channel. We will be probably doing a retrospective, which is where I'll talk about all the games and talk about which ones I liked and why I like them, and maybe even do kind of a listing of where I place each game in my own personal enjoyment. But that's going to do it for the review. Thank you so much for watching this review. If you haven't already, do hit the subscribe button down below. That way you can catch all of our videos. We release videos. I try to release videos every day. Currently rolling out on the channel as of the recording of this. Actually, I was going to say the recording of this, but then you guys won't see this until way after. Don't worry about that. Anyways, we have a bunch of series. We have over 1,000. Oh, actually, I think we broke over 1,500 videos. So go watch all of that stuff. Watch our Fatal Frame playthrough of the whole entire series if you're interested. Thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe again, and I will see you in the next review.